Welcome, everybody, to the Northwest Indiana COVID-19 report for Friday, May 1st, 2020. I'm Michael Puente with WBEZ News, and I'm co-host with Bill Moran of the Bill and Callie Show. How you doing, Bill?
Oh, great. Absolutely wonderful.
It's been a long day. It's been a long week, and it's actually been a long couple of months with this COVID-19. And we finally got the news that everybody was anticipating today, whether Governor Eric Holcomb was going to extend the stay-at-home order. Well, he did it, but he kind of did in a sort of way for Lake County, Marion County, and Cass County. Um, there are still provisions. He announced this morning that basically most of the state will be off the sort of the restricted travel use. There's still going to be restrictions on how many people can be gathering in a conjugating in an area, maybe like about 20, 25 people. I think he said 25 is the limit. And but that's not going to happen for Lake County until May 11th. So almost 2 weeks from today. Not exactly 2 weeks. And also Marion County and Cass County. That's because they're still seeing some of the numbers not exactly where they want to be. And before we get to the numbers, well, I tell you what, we're kind of doing this on a sort of the seat of our pants. Let's go over the latest numbers from the Indiana State Department of Health as it relates to COVID-19. So right now, the State Department of Health is reporting 815 new positive cases for COVID-19 statewide for a total of 18,630, 55 new deaths for a total number of deaths for 1,062. And we are nearing a mark of almost 100,000 Hoosiers being tested for COVID-19. Right now, the number is at 99,639, and that represents 4,660 new tests since yesterday. And if you want to look at the numbers in Lake County, there's oh man, my eyes are getting a little bit bad. Okay, Lake County, 1,929 positive cases, almost 2,000 positive cases, 92 deaths with about 8,700 people tested. Porter County, 240 positives with 7 deaths, and LaPorte County, 224 with 6 deaths. And so I don't want to leave anybody out since I've been doing this. We've been also including Newton, Jasper, and Stark. So in case we have any viewers out there, Newton County has 60 positive deaths with 60 positive cases and 6 deaths. And Jasper County, 33 positives with 1 death. They've been stuck at that 1 death for a while, so thank God for that. Stark County has 16 positives with 1 death. And if you go a little bit further south from Stark County to Cass County, they have 1,214 positive cases for COVID-19 and 2 deaths, with a total of 1,950 people being tested. You might think, what's the big deal of Cass County? The thing about Lake County, we have what? Almost 2,000 people, 1,929 positives for a population of almost a half a million people. Cass County, I think about 37,000. So it really blew up down there. They got that Tyson meat packaging plant down there, and meat packaging plants all around the country have been having a tough time at it. So before we get to Eric Holcomb's big announcement today, he built it up this entire week. Bill, what do you think about these latest numbers? I know people are starting to feel like maybe there's positive signs, but when you really see them, maybe not.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem here. The numbers are always shocking, but you always have to come back to the percentage of the population, percentage of so on. But you've got to take it as a whole, which is kind of difficult. The numbers are shocking, but you also have to look at the available beds, the ECU beds, the availability of ventilators to handle this inrush, if you will.
Right.
Um, yeah, a thing that concerns me is we've known Marion and Lake County has been problematic for some time. They've kind of been neck and neck. Although some debate. Well, they've had more availability to testing, but they also have a larger population. But the thing that bothers me is Cass County that blew up overnight.
Sure it did.
literally.
Yes.
And when we talk about opening up, and he did delay them further on in the month. He said Cass County, and excuse me, I don't know exactly what date that is, but I know they're even further than Lake and Marion County. But it's almost like, okay, why did that happen? How did it? In with trace contact tracing just being initiated with these 500 people that the state has hired to be contact tracers. So they yeah, supposedly this is the way it's supposed to go. You are tested positive. One of these contact tracers calls you and tries to find what contact you've had during that period of time. Boy, I don't know. I would like to know what happened in Cass County because
Well, what
he's
happened in
delaying
Cass
it.
County? You've got a predominantly Hispanic, Latin community down there, probably
Mm-hmm.
a language barrier, working at these food processing plants, and not a lot of safeguards. I've been doing reporting for WBEZ on another meat processing plant in St. Charles. We've also been looking at OMI in Chicago and Rose Packing, and the common element is there is low wage workers, maybe a
Mm-hmm.
language barrier, mostly Latino, and expendable. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds of people I've been talking to for a story I'm going to be working on for next week for WBEZ. But I will say this, um, there's some issues in those meat processing plants. So, that's if you don't have enough safeguards. I know the state's been kind of trusting the companies a little bit too much in all this, and I asked the governor this week about that, and they're saying they're doing everything they can. They sent up a strike team over there, but are they really? And right now, it's still emerging as a huge hotspot. Cass County is going to be the last county in Indiana to reopen. The date for that is May 18th.
Yeah.
So they still got almost more than half a month to go before they're out of the woods.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's blowing up. And the thing I tell people though is, don't the state of Indiana is not going to wait until there are zero COVID-19 positive cases. What they're trying to do is making sure that there's enough beds, there's enough ICU beds, enough PPE, enough ventilators to deal with the expected or maybe predicted surge in more positive cases when people start to go back to work.
Yeah. And that is where we're headed at. I think the state has identified, we do need to get people back. Which if you look at it, there's two sides of the fence on this. Endangering people. Do we want to sit back? But the thing is, you have to consider, and I think this is where Governor Holcomb constantly have to analyze, and we have to appreciate it in some way. At some point, the government is going to run out of resources. If the taxpayers are not paying in to these services, at some point, the state cannot pay out. They can't pay for the testing. They can't pay for services that we all appreciate. So, there's a give and take here that is, let's put it this way, I wouldn't want to be in the governor's seat right now, having to analyze all these and having to deal with the federal government and making sure ventilators are available, test kits are available. So there's always give and take. But, the thing is, again, we're moving forward and the numbers are still going up. Deaths are going up, and they claim that that there's recovery. They've witnessed recovery. People have recovered from COVID-19, and so you've got to look at the broad picture, and that's always kind of difficult to do. Without to look at the numbers coming from the health department, then look at the average available ventilators are available, the beds are available. It gets confusing after a while. It is a numbers game.
That's true. Now, if folks are watching at home or in their car on their cell phones, if you have a question, write it down in the comments page, and I'll try to answer it. I will say this: we are going to have a special guest coming on in a few minutes, and we're going to talk a little bit with him. It's a big name. I think it's a big name. He's a good guy, so we'll have him on in a little bit. should we say who it is, or just kind of still tease it out a little bit? Now, you know
Eh,
what?
it's
Just stick
surprise.
around.
Let's
You'll see who it
surprise
is.
him. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but before we get to a little bit more discussion, let's hear a little bit with the governor talking today about his plan to reopen Indiana slowly but surely. Here we go.
We have developed a 5-stage roadmap. I said earlier, we have a lot of numbers. And that is with our collective efforts. Those efforts will help us reach the goal of having Indiana back on track by July 4th, Independence Day. Of course, this roadmap is subject to change.
And what's going to change is that, if the cases still keep going up, that can alter it. So let's hear a little bit more from him. I didn't mean to cut him off, but let's hear a little more.
Stage 2 will roll out over the next 3 weeks. Nearly all of Indiana will move to Stage 2 this Monday, May 4th. Marion and Lake, our two most populous counties, may begin Stage 2 on May 11th to ensure our new testing and contact tracing programs are up and running. Cass County, which recently had an outbreak, may start Stage 2 on May 18th to make sure they don't overwhelm the area healthcare system. As we work to get back on track, we must still protect the most vulnerable among us. That's why in Stage 2, coronavirus should remain at home as much as possible.
Sorry about that. I hit something and he said something. Let's play it back so people are like, what did he just say? Hold on.
System. As we work to get back on track, we must still protect the most vulnerable among us. That's why in Stage 2, Hoosiers 65 and over, and those with high-risk health conditions who are the most susceptible to the coronavirus, should remain at home as much as possible.
So that's Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb talking about this Stage 2 process, then Stage 3 and 4. We get up all the way to Stage 5 by July 4th, and that's when we return to normal as Hoosiers, sort of. There's still going to be, the new normal is going to, we're never going to be the way we were back in January before all this. We're going to have, still that social distancing. People are going to use their mask. And, as we start to relax, then the fall is going to come. And we'll just have to deal with it as it happens. So Stage 2 is coming up on Monday for everybody except for Cass County, Marion, and Lake County. For us, we're going to have to wait all the way until May 11th. And I see Mike Bonaventura looking at us. He's probably just like, oh, man, I cannot deal with this anymore, right? Mike Bonaventura.
Yeah, he's probably thinking he feels like the kid that misbehaved and got the whole class in trouble.
Yeah, Lake County. Yeah, but you know what? We've been still needing more testing up here. I know people have been talking about that, and now they're supposedly have a plan. I mean, the goal initially was to be 6,000 tests per day, and they haven't even scratched that. I think it's been like maybe. Well, I think today was one of the most, around 4,000. So they're thinking about a plan that's going to be able to test people. I think they said like 100,000 in a week or a month, something like that. So they got to get up there pretty significantly.
Michael,
So,
did they mention anything? Because I was busy today, I wasn't able to listen to the conference. I tried to read through the script afterwards that they published. But did they make mention of the random testing that they were supposed to be implementing this week?
they mentioned it a little bit. I think people have to they're getting volunteers to do that. I think there were up to like something like 5,000 already for the testing, and that's with a different company, and they want to see how this COVID-19 acts as a virus and study it a lot. So that's what they're doing. I'm still not exactly 100% up on all these different testing measures that they're doing. I know IU Indiana University had one. There's another group that's doing one. So, I think Indiana is trying to be in front with this, but it remains to be seen how successful they're going to be.
So are we on? How are we on our guest? Do you want him to come on?
Let's see. Is he waiting in our stage room
You know,
backstage?
not yet. I don't see
Yeah, I
anything
just
yet.
sent him a link, and he's probably been waiting.
Okay. All right.
I won't say it is in case he bailed on us and say you guys are just taking way too long.
Yeah,
We're
on our
not trying
show,
to
I
make a
called him the
fun about
king
this, but it
of
is
the.
Friday night. People are sitting at home watching
That's
something.
right.
I know we have a captive audience right now. Because we're not out of the stay-at-home order yet. We still got you guys for like 11 more days. So until then, hopefully you're at home looking at this and enjoying it with us. And we're just trying to give you the news and have
Right.
a little fun
And
along the
we
way.
don't have a
So
producer barking in our ear that telling us we're doing it all wrong, right, Mike?
no, that's that's with me when I'm on the reset or some kind of show on WBZ. People telling me, "Hey, you're talking too loud," or "We can't hear you. So pull up your volume," or "You're misspeaking and enunciate more." So
Yeah, we don't have a
I can
producer
have
on
my
this
hair
one.
down a little bit.
No,
So
this is kind of like pull the bootstraps together and push the button and hope for the best.
that's
So,
right. That's right. All right. And let's take a look at some of those numbers again. Again, Indiana, and you'll probably get the invite if he actually steps up. Indiana is not waiting until there are zero cases for COVID-19. They're going to wait until all the ventilators and
here
the
he is.
ICU beds are available. And let's see.
Okay, here he is. Hold on.
Okay, here he is. And our special guest tonight is none other than Speros Batistatos, head of the Lake County Convention and Visitors Authority. And I'm sure he was looking at the governor's um, announcement today with anticipation. Speros, as you're relaxing at home right now, first of all, welcome to the Northwest Indiana COVID-19 update for Friday, May 1st.
Michael, Bill, great to see both of you. I hope both of my dear friends are safe and your extended families are well and your work families are well on top of that. So thanks for having me on.
We're
As
glad.
you called me 15 minutes later, I might have had to take a pass because I've already poured one for the evening. So, but you caught me just in time.
It's okay. This
We
is
had you
not the
waiting for a while.
FCC does not regulate us.
Bill, real
Speros.
quick, not Bill, Speros. So this, out of all the industries in Northwest Indiana that's been affected by this, the tourism industry has been tremendously impacted with the hotels and with tournaments. And you spell out, I don't mean to have this to sort of be a sob story tonight, but tell us the impact this COVID-19 has had on Northwest Indiana.
Devastating. And you know what? I want to point out that, at a time like this, we all need to give special thanks to the first responders. Okay. The men and women who are working the hospitals, our police, fire, EMT, first responders, men and women of the military, as bad as any industry can say that we have it, you know what? Yes, 90% of my people are unemployed right now, but they're not in the hospitals putting their lives at risk every day. So it's important to temper any comments we make about hospitality with the importance of other work that's going on around us.
That's right. So as this sort of stay-at-home order is lifted, and it's supposed to happen for us May 11th, how do you feel? How is Lake County going to respond to that in terms of hotels and just trying to slowly creep back up into having a tourism industry again?
Well, I've had the opportunity to, I listened to the governor with a keen ear today, and I want to share with both of you that I have the highest respect for Eric Holcomb. I think he is a balanced, measured Hoosier. When you talk to him, his empathy and consideration for Hoosiers is evident. I'm and I've had the pleasure in my 31-year career to meet a lot of great governors. I mean, seriously, just every one of them for 30 years. Eric Holcomb's my favorite. I just really like Governor Holcomb. He has laid out a plan for us that I think is very measured. I think it's backed by a lot of factual information that's coming from his medical team. And I would point out that, every governor in America, and I think Governor Holcomb's doing it better than others are, you have to triangulate the problem through the prism of lives, livelihoods, and civil liberties. And I think he's got a handle on all three. Now, for my organization and our industry, we want to be open tomorrow. Let's make no bones about it. I've talked to a lot of hoteliers, a lot of restaurateurs have told me that, hey, thanks for the 50%, but I can't make money in my restaurant at 50% and no bar. So I think in the short term in Lake County or the South Shore, in the 5 counties we serve, I don't think you're going to see that many restaurants open up. You're going to see a number, but money is made in this business, one, by the number of seats that are penciled into the pro forma, to the bar. The bar makes restaurants a lot of money. So absent the ability to sit down and have a cocktail and have more than 50%, I think you're going to continue to see a lot of drive-through and pickup in restaurants. Now, there's a couple of guys that are very innovative. I've also heard they're going to use banquet rooms. They're going to use outdoor dining. They're going to expand their dining room footprint. And as a side note, that's why I love working in this business. We represent some of the greatest thinkers with respect to managing the most perishable inventory that exists. So I know it's a wordy answer for you, Michael, but I think that the governor has laid out a good plan. For us, we'd like to see more. I'm a little concerned, to be honest with you, about what I didn't hear today about casinos. We need to get our casinos up and running. Casinos are the 6th largest taxpayer in the state of Indiana, and we need to get that business moving sooner than I believe we're going to see it. So if I had a chance to sit down and speak with Governor Holcomb, I would try to really passionately impart on him. Our operators are sophisticated. They've studied the best techniques in the world. I'm confident that every one of our casino operators in Indiana can provide a safe experience for their workers and for their guests. And we need to get these businesses open as soon as is practical, again, within that triangulation of lives, livelihoods, and civil liberties.
Speros, I have one question for you because I've got some very close friends who are in the entertainment industry, and one of the things that they expressed the concern about when the CARE Act got passed is that it had provisions for unemployment and giving some of these workers an additional pay. I think it's $500 a month. And some of the concerns that I hear from the owners are being able to call some of these people back. It's kind of difficult because they can actually make more money sitting at home than they can coming back to work. Have you heard much about that?
Bill, that is a very important topic. It's very real. We talked about that this morning on a conference call with the Northwest Indiana Forum membership and Senator Todd Young. And he recognized that issue. And I've heard from a number of restaurateurs. I do think that the minute your employer calls you back and needs you, and you can go back to your job, I think there should be some kind of mechanism that if employees are trying to take advantage or game the system, that they are, that they aren't able to do that. And, part of my concern as I talk about that lives and livelihoods is that our hospitality employees, a lot of them represent some of the most vulnerable paycheck to paycheck people that are out there. Mm-hmm. So can I blame them for trying to, if that's the way the rules are written and you're making some extra money, great, God bless you. But when your owner and your boss calls back and says, okay, it's time to suit up and go back to work, I think it's incumbent on you to go back to your job mm-hmm. and let's get this economy rolling again. So, right. As Senator Young pointed out today, with a very Hoosier, pragmatic and practical approach, some of the numbers were written for the coasts, and obviously some of those numbers are a little too much for the Hoosier heartland.
Yeah, and I know this was an issue of debate right before the Senate passed it. In fact, some senators were criticized for bringing up the issue. about this pay, and they hit it right on the head. Are we going to be able to call people back if they're earning more at home than in the workplace? But yeah, and it comes down to, I think if you have people that are of the right mind and are willing to support the economy, they're going to realize they have to get back at work to support the company that they work for. We would hope they think that way, but and sometimes it's kind of difficult, especially now. So
Well, I've got a lot of confidence in our people. I've had the opportunity, and I've been very fortunate in my career that I've met so many wonderful servers and hosts and chefs and just everybody. And I always try to make it a point to introduce myself because these are the people that are the backbone of my industry,
mm-hmm.
and I'm confident in them. I really am. I'm confident that they're going to do the right thing like they do every day in every restaurant, casino, or hotel that they were working in prior to 8 weeks ago. So, I'm very, very optimistic about the quality and caliber and integrity of the people that are in our industry.
Yeah. And
it's funny that you brought the issue up, Bill, because earlier this week, actually just yesterday, Fred Payne, who heads the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, talked about that very issue about employees needing to get back to work if they're called upon, or they could lose their benefits. I have a short clip that I can play right now of what he had to say, just right here.
One of the things that the Department of Workforce Development does not do is we don't regulate workplaces and the policies and procedures that they have in place. However, as I mentioned earlier, what we will do is we will evaluate on a case-by-case basis every claim that comes in. And if a person makes a claim that the employer's place is unfit and it's unsafe under COVID conditions, we will consider that as a part of a refusal to work determination.
And that was Fred Payne, head of the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. Speros, let me ask you this. How much is Indiana or Northwest Indiana's hotel industry tied into Chicago? Because we do know with a lot of conventions, concerts, sporting events, a lot of people prefer to stay in Northwest Indiana to save money than spending it in downtown Chicago. How much are we tied to what's happening in Chicago?
See, you ask a great question, Michael, as you always do. And, just thank you for the many years that we've spent together, you asking great questions and me trying to answer them. I would have framed the question slightly differently. And if you will allow me to do so, certainly to your direct question, there are times that there are major citywide conventions in Chicago that bleed into, especially the Hammond corridor, both on the toll road and 94, because there are people that have realized over time we provide a compelling product at a different price point, and that they don't have to navigate, a lot of the costs of the city by staying here. So there is some minor dependency on some of the biggest events in Chicago. The way I would have asked the question is, Chicago is very important to how we sell the South Shore. And so when we're talking to amateur sports groups, we're talking to some of the social, military, education, religious, fraternal groups, we're talking with just leisure travel. Selling Chicago is a big part of what we do because we offer a Chicago experience to those travelers, again, in amateur sports, Smurf, leisure, in a way that they can drive to Chicago for the day, experience it, and still stay here. So I think Chicago has more of and I don't want to say it that way, but clearly we use Chicago to help fill our hotel rooms because we can get you to Chicago cheaper and quicker. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The big industry, of course, here is the casino industry. We have 5 casinos in Northwest Indiana. Technically, maybe 4 if you just count the new one that's going to be built in Gary. There has been some local protests from some of the workers wanting more protections when they open. Do you feel that, again, you were mentioning this a little bit earlier, that the casinos can provide a safe environment for both attendees and the employees?
Without any question. I've spoken to all of our Lake County casino operators. They are on top of some cutting edge technologies whether it's some of the, what I'm going to call a super soaker mister. If you've seen this, Marriott has had it out there. It almost looks like a super soaker. The person using it has a hazmat suit on. They're using this on planes and hotel rooms, and Marriott's really got out in front of this, as is Southwest Airlines. Whether it's UV lighting at the slot machines or at the tables, without any question, am I 100% confident that our operators are driven. I mean, they can't make a mistake here, Michael and Bill. I think that's the part that, they can't have a misstep. So I'm very confident in the operator's commitment to safety for the guest and the employee. I'm confident in the employee's desire to have a safe workspace and provide exceptional customer service. And the only question I see on the horizon, and I wrote an article on LinkedIn about it, is how quickly we can restore consumer confidence. The American broadcast media, mainstream media, has scared the daylights out of the American traveling consumer. Unlike 9/11, which I was in Atlantic City at that time running the Atlantic City Convention and Visitors Authority, the president, members of Congress, the media were saying it's out there. We know who the enemy is. It's safe. You could see the changes that they were making to airplanes and to border access. And we were absolutely pushed. Get out of the house. Go out there. Be safe. Everything's safe. We've got this. Well, exactly the opposite is happening now. You turn on whatever news choice you have in the morning, and the death count's running like the stock ticker. It's gloom, it's doom, it's don't come out of your house, close the windows, pull the shades, almost the Lilliputian that we grew up on. We're never going to make it. It's killing us. And we've got to stop that kind of reporting. We've got to, I would implore your brethren, Michael, stop politics, stop partisanship, report the science and the facts, and stop scaring the daylights out of the American consumer. It's not you, of course, and not Bill, but there's a lot of shameful conduct by the media right now on both sides. I'm not picking any side here. We got to get to facts. We've got to get to science, and we've got to, again, triangulate the problem through lives, livelihood, and civil liberties. That's how we've got to attack this problem.
And Speros, I'm just a dumb talk show host, so I want to eliminate myself from this conversation.
I'm a little Greek kid from Gary, trying to make my way in the world. So I get it, Bill.
Well, let me ask you this, Speros, though, as a member of the media, and I'm going to put a plug in here. My choice for news is NPR, WBEZ, or Lakeshore Public Radio. I'll put a plug in for that. But when you do hear, and not trying to be an alarmist, and I'm not I'm not always privy to everything that's happening nationally because I'm so actually more focused regionally. When you do hear about so many more positive cases, not only in Indiana, I mean, today we just had 815 new positive cases, 55 new deaths, and then you cross over there into Chicago, which is having some good news with they're even having to scale back the operations at McCormick Place. So it's kind of hard to ignore when you're having more substantial positive new cases and deaths, and try to try to put it in some type of context, not scare people, but you still have to report the news that's out there.
And Michael, you do a great job of doing that. That's why you're one of the very few guys that can text me at 8:00 on a Friday night when I'm home with my wife, and I'm going to jump on because I have eminent respect for you and the three outlets that you mentioned. I'm just talking about the need to make sure, as you always have in our interactions over 3 decades, we temper the information that's factual. We present all sides of the argument, which I would argue to you is three-sided. And I have a lot of faith in Hoosiers, and call me silly, but when I'm out on the once a week run to Strax, when I have to run that errand somewhere, I see a lot of people taking this very seriously. I think they've come to understand the enemy, and maybe I'm naive, and you can tell me that I am, but I believe that if we let people do what they need to do through the 5 stages of the governor's easing of the restrictions, I think you're going to see Hoosier conduct to be very rewarding, very appropriate, and very respectful, because that's what Hoosiers do. And so I'm eager to see things loosen up, get back open, get the hospitality industry open. I want to see the men and women of the steel industry get back to work. I mean, when you've idled 2 blast furnaces in the last 2 weeks, that's scary. Those things take a long time to bring back online. The 26,000 men and women of the steel workers, my industry is just as concerned about them as we are healthcare workers, as we are small business owners. We're all in this together. It's not about hospitality. It's about getting people back to work, getting them to work safely so they can earn the livelihoods, and getting this economy restarted and restoring our civil liberties. I happen to believe that's important. People should be able to go to church. People should be able to leave their house. And I applaud Governor Holcomb for what I think is a very balanced approach. Are there parts I'd like to see her? Yeah, there are. But I think he did a great job today. And we're going to do anything we can to move it along and keep reemphasizing to people masks, safety, social distancing, pick up and reducing touch points, and let's get on with this and get this behind us.
Speros, I'd like to reiterate that. One of the things I think we have to realize, and Michael and I were talking about it before you came on, is at some point we've got to be concerned. Yeah, of course, we have to balance life with livelihood, which Governor Holcomb clearly stated that's. I wouldn't want his seat right now for anything.
Oh God, no, absolutely not.
He's got he's got to deal with the federal. Trying to negotiate things with the federal government and to make sure things are safe for Hoosiers. Which I agree with you. He's done an excellent job, and again, a very difficult position he's in. One of the things, though, and particularly at the entertainment industry, we always hear about the new norm. What is it going to look like? What do you view that as? What do you? I mean, can you? You can't guess the future.
I don't buy into any new norm. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to get back to doing what we've always done. We have an inconvenience right now for all of us. I'd love to be having this conversation somewhere at a bar and a couple of microphones, and we all have our own, beverage of choice. And we're going to get back to that. I absolutely reject the notion of a new norm. This is an inconvenience. We're going to use the digital tools that we are right now, like Zoom, to get us through it. My industry can't have a new norm. My industry, as I was talking to somebody on the governor's staff, you talk about social distancing. My industry is all about social closeness. Okay, we are the industry about going to a concert, going to a restaurant, being at a convention. There's no new norm for my business, so I completely reject that idea. I'm not going to allow that thought to be anywhere near our industry. We've got to figure this out. We've got to fix it, and we've got to get back to business.
So to set a goal and make sure we get there.
Absolutely.
We can't be
Before we let you go, I do have one more question for you. And obviously, I don't want to put words in your mouth or anything, but obviously you did notice that Governor Holcomb did not mention the opening of casinos just yet. If casinos were given the green light today, do you think they would be open today?
I do. And again, I've had the opportunity to speak with all 3 of our, although Gary has 2 properties, it's managed by one entity. And I can, what I hear from those casino GMs is that they have the tools, they have the talent, they've done the research. These are large corporations. The largest, of course, being Horseshoe and Hammond. And then Ameristar, and of course then our very own Indiana-based, soon-to-be Hard Rock. These guys are very sophisticated operators, and they don't want to put their employees and they don't want to put their guests in harm's way. I'm convinced we could open up tomorrow and provide a safe, friendly experience, but that's not my call. And to Bill's point, I don't know how the governor sleeps at night. I really don't. I mean, I cannot imagine the incredible burden on that man's shoulders and how he's getting hit from every direction. So yes, I was disappointed that we didn't hear anything about casinos today. I am confident that casinos are on the governor's radar, and I'm also confident that we will hear something shortly, and I'm confident in our operators. So, we've got to open it all back up. Hotels, restaurants, casinos, sporting events, concerts, it's all important. As our steel mills, as our getting elective surgeries back into hospitals, which are going broke, as our, you name it, it's all important to us. So we have to band together. I will not tell you my industry is any more important than anybody else. We're one cog in the wheel. We're $1 billion component to Lake County's economy, and I want the other $1 billion components to be successful too.
Well, with that, we'd like to thank Speros Batistatos, head of the Lake County Convention and Visitors Authority, for joining us here on the Northwest Indiana COVID-19 update. Speros, thank you so much. Now you can grab that cold one and relax.
Michael, again, always good to see you, my friend. Keep up the great work you're doing. Bill, I can't wait to get together with you guys again. I really enjoyed our time.
We had fun. And in fact, this is a green screen, right, by the way, but we were right back there in front of that window looking over 8094. That was fun.
This is green screen too. I'm actually 50 pounds lighter.
Well, unfortunately, my Mac, which is 6 or 7 years old, doesn't support the new technology of having something behind me. So I'm going to have to remedy that. But gentlemen, thank you. My best to you and yours. And I hope to see you both soon.
And Kelly and I still hope that we could make it to the Rose Awards. We want
you'll be there. No, we will have the Rose Awards. You will be there because there are incredible stories to tell about our industry. And do me a favor, bring Michael along with you.
Yeah, Mike. Hey, by then we'll have new haircuts.
Yeah, well, you notice that there's a lot going on here, right? I mean, it's getting. I'm going to put it in a ponytail pretty soon.
Well, see, mine's offset by the loss of hair on top. So I'm at the age where, hey, it's either cut it or lose it. So,
gentlemen, hey, so good to see you all. Have a great evening.
Same here. You take it easy, Speros.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we want to thank Speros for again joining us here on the Northwest Indiana COVID-19 report, going over the latest news. Yes, there was some disappointment on his part that he didn't hear casinos specifically mentioned, and I'm a little surprised that it wasn't mentioned, but maybe it's within one of those 5 stages that the governor's talking about rolling out. So if eventually we're supposed to get back to this new, like sort of the way we were by July 4th, I think that's the plan, to get back to doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing. So hopefully this video is okay. It seems like my laptop is a little bit working a little funny, little fuzzy, and the audio seems to be fine on my computer studio.
And I'm making some graphic changes on the fly that people are saying, what the heck is going on? It's the way we roll at the Bill and Kelly Show.
That's right. So we're going to start wrapping this up. We've been on here for, I think, at least a half an hour now. Yeah. So I don't see any questions. I do see some viewers, Brenda Tolbert, Anna Martinez, who I had Anna Martinez on earlier today on my show Off Mic on Lakeshore Public Radio. And you get a chance, listen to that. We had a lot of great information on the show, which airs on Friday at 11, but you can hear it as a podcast by going to lakeshorepublicradio.org, or you can look on my Facebook page, and you'll see it right there. We had Anna Martinez on. We had Cindy Lopez, who runs Anna Martinez runs the Anna's Kubacha shop in Miller Beach in Gary, Kubacha tea, fermented tea. She really touts this fermented tea. I'm a coffee drinker, and she made me the best coffee I've ever had. I'm not lying. So she's the owner of that. And you have Cindy Lopez, who runs the Maryville Florist and Tea Shop. Maybe they can do a partnership with the whole tea thing going on. And we also had Debbie Bolaños, heads Galaxy Travel in East Chicago, and Alfredo Estrada, attorney in Maryville, talking about workers' rights and what they can do. So we had a really action-packed show, and along with segment with some of my journalism students at Calumet College, and Cheryl Raystout giving us an update. So you can go that to Lakeshore. And of course, you could always hear me on WBEZ in Chicago with the news updates. And depending on what I'm doing, I'm usually investigating some big story or feature story or some spots. Just because you don't hear my voice doesn't mean I'm not working. So.
Yeah. And Michael, if you allow me to plug one thing here,
sure.
This Thursday, May 7th, we are going to have an awesome concert on the Bill and Kelly Show. Starts at 6 p.m. and ends at 10:30. Five amazing musicians, and all the proceeds go to benefit the food bank in Northwest Indiana. And I've got to say, we talked about the frontline workers. A lot of people really underappreciate the food bank and what they do, especially in these times. We've had more people out of work than they've ever seen before, and more people that need their services. And even though you see a lot of money coming in, they've had a lot of loss of money. They've lost donations severely. Even though they get their federal grant through the Feeding America that still sustains them, but a lot of private contributors no longer can contribute. So we're going to try to help them out this Thursday with this concert. Go to our Facebook page or the Food Bank of Northwest Indiana's Facebook page to learn more about it. And I guarantee you will not be disappointed. All these five we had a series of concerts on the Bill and Kelly Show, and each one of these musicians just absolutely hit it out of the park. So there you go.
Yeah, okay, we'll look for that. Great. Northwest Indiana Food Bank, great organization. Northwest Indiana, we got to kind of take care of our own. This is the reason why we started the Northwest Indiana COVID-19 update. We haven't been doing it as much is because my workload has just grown incredible. And sometimes there's just not enough time to do it, but it was Friday night, a lot of news to report. So, but is to get you some more information to focus on Northwest Indiana. We don't always get that airtime in the Chicago TV stations or radio stations. So this is an opportunity for you to get a little bit more information on what's happening, in particular in Indiana and Northwest Indiana. And again, with entities like the Northwest Indiana Food Bank, they're here for you. They're here for our neighbors, and they may not get the notoriety or the attention as the Chicago Food Depository, which is another great organization, but there's a lot of attention paid to them. Northwest Indiana Food Bank doesn't necessarily get that same attention, and they need it. So we have entities and organizations in Northwest Indiana that need every bit as your attention as anywhere else.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
With that, we hope you enjoy the show. You can listen to it again as a podcast. You don't have to look at our mugs, and there's nothing really to look at. But if you enjoy it, give us a shout out. I don't see any comments on the page, so maybe people are just taking this all in and as information. That's great too. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. It's supposed to be nice, and we'll get back on this on Monday.
All right. It's been an honor, Michael, as always.
Thank you, Bill. Really enjoyed doing this with you. You're a pro. I'm
just
really
a dumb talk show
host. Hi to
host.
Callie for me.
Oh, definitely. I will. Definitely. So with that, we'll say goodbye for now.
Good night.